Welcome to and thank you for attending Preparing for the Transition to Housing. This session is hosted by the Office of Community Housing at the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. This presentation is intended to help individuals and families plan and prepare for the move to integrated independent housing. Our agenda for this session includes discussing the steps to prepare for independent integrated housing, securing supports to get into housing, securing supports to stay in housing, and the next steps. We will provide an opportunity to ask questions at the end of this presentation. When we reach the question and answer period, we ask that you use the chat feature to ask your questions. The first step in planning and preparing for the move to independent living is to learn about what it is like to live in independent housing and the different housing options that are available. These options may be explored by reviewing tools and participating in independent housing activities such as watching the videos created by the Northern Virginia and Southside Housing and Supportive Services teams. These videos give you an opportunity to meet individuals that have transitioned to independent living and to learn through the stories that they share. Another tool to assist with preparing and understanding independent living is the My Own Home Handbook. This guide will help you not only think through the key considerations when planning a move to independent housing, but it also provides detailed explanations about housing resources and affordable housing programs, as well as step-by-step instructions to assist with developing a budget, applying for housing, and completing the housing search to identify a rental unit. To get an even closer look at independent housing, you may also choose to visit people who are already living independently with supports and learn directly from them. These opportunities can be organized with the help of your regional housing coordinator in your area. Another option is to try it out. If you aren't sure if you are ready for living independently, a great way to find that answer is to try out independent living with support for an overnight or a weekend. Once you have decided that independent living is for you, the next step is to consider who you want to live with. Independent living does not mean that you have to live alone. I will repeat, independent living does not mean that you have to live alone. You can choose to live alone, or you can choose to have a roommate or a live-in aide. If you are interested in living with a roommate or live-in aide, then you will have to try to figure out who that roommate or aide should be. A good place to start is to identify people in your circle that you can ask to share housing as a roommate or live-in aide. Interview the individual you are interested in sharing housing with and allow them to interview you about what each of you want and need in shared housing. For putting together your interview, use the questions to ask potential housemates link that may be accessed by the link on this slide. Do a trial run. Stay overnight at each other's homes or go on a vacation together to get a better sense of what it may be like sharing space with this person. It may also help to make a roommate agreement or a live-in companion agreement, which can outline each person's responsibilities, such as taking care of household chores and paying expenses. Templates for developing these agreements may be accessed on the links provided on this page. So now that we know we want to live independently, can we afford it? The key to learning whether you can afford independent living is to develop a budget. For help developing your budget, you can use the household spending plan that may be accessed by the link on this slide. This spending plan has two columns. The first shows your income and expenses where you live now, and the second shows your income and expenses where you plan to live. These columns may look very different. For example, if you live with your parents, you may not pay for the electric or water, your groceries, your transportation, or even your laundry. When you live in your own place, you will have to pay for these things. If you aren't sure where your money is going, a good way to find out is to keep a diary of everything you spend for 4 weeks. This will shed light on where your money is going and help you identify areas that you could decrease spending to better afford living independently. If your budget shows that you have more expenses than income, think about ways you can decrease your expenses or find alternative sources of income to help balance your budget. Some examples might be applying for food stamps to offset the cost of groceries, or obtaining a free cell phone service such as the SafeLink phone program, or instead of premium cable, get basic cable. It could also mean reducing the amount of money you spend on entertainment. Now that you have decided if you will live alone or not and how much rent you can afford, you need to figure out where you want to live. When attempting to identify the community where you want to live, it will help to consider if the community is near things that are important to you, such as family and friends, a job if you are currently working, public transportation, medical facilities or doctor's offices, and shopping, just to name a few. Also, is the community you are looking at safe and secure? Does it have good lighting and sidewalks? Is there a lot of crime in this area? These are all items to consider when choosing where you want to live. To learn more about the community, ask friends and family who live in or near the area to tell you about daily life in that neighborhood. Speak with law enforcement officers about any safety concerns in the community. Take a tour of the community to get an idea of the opportunities available for recreation, work, shopping, and dining. Visit the area during the morning, afternoon, and nighttime hours to see the full picture of the neighborhood and its activities. Once you've chosen a particular community, you can narrow your search for rental housing by determining what you need and want in a rental with regards to features, accessibility, security, and transportation. Some items to consider would be whether or not the rental property is smoking or non-smoking, whether or not the rental property allows or does not allow pets. Now keep in mind that if you require a service animal, it will not fall under a property's pet policy, and an accommodation request can be completed so that the service animal will be allowed in the rental property. You will also want to find out if the rental property has all of the appliances that you need, and are the appliances powered by electricity or gas. Additionally, does the rental have all of the accessibility features you need, such as a roll-in shower or roll-under countertops? Is there a secure building entrance or front desk attended? Transportation factors should also be considered. Is the rental near public transportation, or if you need parking, is it available? Remember, as the number of items on your needs and wants list increases, the pool of available units on the market decreases. Now it's time to think about how to prepare for the application process for rental assistance and the rental unit you wish to live in. In order to apply for rental assistance for a unit at a rental property, certain documents are needed, such as the items listed on the slide. A birth certificate or proof of citizenship, which verifies proof of birth date and proof of birthplace. A social security card, which provides proof of social security number and name. A photo ID such as a Department of Motor Vehicles driver's or non-driver's license, supplemental security income, also known as SSI, or Social Security Disability Insurance, also known as SSDI, can provide award letters which will state the amount you are receiving and any deductions being taken out of your monthly benefit. You may also want to produce receipts for medical expenses that were paid for by you out of your own pocket. Often these documents are easy to get together because there is a family member, guardian, or support provider that has already collected them. If you don't have one or more of these items, you can apply for them to be reissued. Sometimes there may be a waiting period of several weeks between the time you apply and when you receive them. Therefore, if you are missing one of these required items, apply for it before submitting your housing application. Failure to provide these documents will prevent the housing agency from being able to process your application and to approve you for a housing unit or housing assistance. Without these items, the housing agency cannot provide assistance and you could miss getting the rental unit that you are interested in. Additional documents and information regarding your residential history, income, and assets may be requested at the time of application by the housing agency or by the property owner, depending on their individual program policies. However, without the documents listed above, no housing assistance application will be considered complete. Another area that will benefit you to address sooner rather than later are housing barriers. There are numerous housing barriers that may prevent you from being able to live independently by impacting your eligibility to receive housing assistance needed to make housing affordable, or they may stop a property owner from renting to you. Common barriers include items such as poor or no credit, not enough income to qualify to rent a unit, unpaid bills, legal issues, and a prior eviction from a rental property. If these issues will likely come up on your path to independent living, then the best course of action is to make a plan to address them before they stop your housing search in its tracks. If you think a landlord may be concerned about your credit or lack of rental history, you could consider the following options. Offering a larger security deposit. Please keep in mind that this security deposit, although larger, should not exceed 2 months' rent. Offer first and last month's rent up front. Or you could ask your family if they would be willing to co-sign on the lease. If you are concerned about being able to pay rent, you can investigate rental assistance options in your area. You can also consider living with a roommate to share the cost of rent and utilities. With regard to legal issues, it is important to understand that voucher programs, public housing, and private rental properties review the criminal history of each applicant. Public housing agencies must deny applications for individuals that 1. Are subject to lifetime sex offense registration, 2. Have been convicted of methamphetamine production on federally assisted housing property, 3. Are currently engaging in illegal drug activity or have been evicted from federally assisted housing due to drug-related criminal activity within the last 3 years. Private rental properties often have more restrictive criteria related to criminal backgrounds. If you have criminal convictions, it will benefit you to speak with your housing coordinator or local housing authority to determine if your past criminal activities may impact your ability to obtain housing. Understand housing program rules and policies regarding criminal activity. Verify that information disclosed on your criminal record is accurate. Seek legal counsel when applicable to dispute or expunge your criminal record. Link with services, training, and/or activities that serve an educational, supportive, or restorative purpose to minimize the likeliness of such problematic behavior occurring again. If appropriate, you can request a reasonable accommodation from the housing agency or the landlord for an exception to the policy denying eligibility based on your criminal record due to mitigating circumstances related to disability. To combat the impact of prior evictions, it can be helpful to review the reason for the eviction and highlight any activities or changes in circumstance that will reduce the likelihood that similar issues will occur in the future. For example, if you were previously evicted from a rental property for non-payment of rent, but since then you have designated a payee to ensure that your bills are paid, this could be brought to the attention of the new landlord to emphasize the efforts that have been taken to improve your tenancy. Now we will talk about securing supports to get into housing. It can be a team approach. The team can often include an individual support coordinator or case manager, family and/or friends, the DBHDS housing team, and other networks who play a role and assist in some way with the process. Keep in mind that the team could be as large or as small as the individual desires. Before getting into housing, there are a number of areas where the team could assist. For example, requesting reasonable accommodations from the landlord or the rent assistance program, completing the rental assistance application, searching for properties that accept rental assistance, visiting apartments, filling out apartment applications, and making sure the landlord completes required paperwork to approve the unit in the rent assistance program. It is vitally important to identify who on the team will help with each of these tasks so that nothing slips through the cracks. This team could also assist with things such as securing assistance for security deposits and other expenses, reviewing the lease, packing, moving, and unpacking, purchasing things needed to furnish the new apartment, and other activities that are associated with living independently in your own home. Again, determine who will help each of these tasks before any housing referrals are made. Now let's talk about supports to maintain housing. Areas of support may include things that the individual will need for daily living. These areas of support can be things such as personal care, which may include bathing, toileting, grooming, dressing, eating, and walking. Independent living activities that may include shopping, meal prep, paying bills, reading mail, doing laundry and dishes, house cleaning, taking out trash, using the telephone, locking the doors or windows, answering the door safely, or reporting repairs. Health and safety may include calling 911, exiting the house safely in an emergency, taking medication, making doctor's appointments, communicating healthcare needs, or filling and refilling prescriptions. Health and safety can also include monitoring or intervening for acute symptoms of chronic illnesses, such as seizures, for instance, or monitoring and intervening for acute behavioral issues that can occur and create a health and/or safety risk for the individual or others. Examples can be physical aggression or self-injury. The type of support provided in these areas will be based on the individual's specific needs. There can also be other special considerations in housing, such as physical needs, which can include lifting, transferring, and mobility. Medical needs, which can include medications, diet or food preparation, allergies, or chronic health conditions. There can be communication needs, which can include speech and hearing, where an individual may need adaptations for the telephone, alarms, a doorbell, or other. And last, sensory needs, which can include vision, hearing, appliances, or other environmental controls. These supports will also be determined by the individual's specific needs. Talk with your support coordinator, service provider, and family about who can help with these activities if you move. If you have a waiver, ask your support coordinator about DD waiver services in independent housing and who provides them. Services can include things such as independent living, in-home supports, shared living, personal assistance, companion services, assistive technology, environmental modifications, and other supportive services. You can find a summary of each of the DD waiver services using the link on this slide. If you do not have a DD waiver or services are not available, you could look into the following options. Another waiver, such as the Commonwealth Coordinated Care Waiver, otherwise known as the CCC Plus waiver, or options through Medicaid that include Medicaid Early Periodic Screening, Diagnosis, and Testing Services, mental health support services, or you could explore getting a live-in aid. Natural supports can also include family, friends, and other networks, and privately paid supports. If there are no critical supports available, this may mean that the need to meet with your desired planning team and to brainstorm other options.
I introduced our regional housing coordinators at the beginning of this presentation. This map shows each of the areas included in a region and is defined by the colors as shown. Green is Region 1, Western Virginia, and Marie Fraticelli covers this area. Yellow is Region 2, Northern Virginia, and Jeannie Cummins Eisenhower covers this area. Orange is Region 3, Southwestern Virginia, and Anna Bowman covers this area. Gray is Region 4, Central Virginia, and Cherie Hilliard-Jones covers this area. And blue is Region 5, Eastern Virginia, and it's covered by Kim Rogers.
This concludes our presentation, and we will now transition to our question and answer portion. At this time, if you have not already, please type any questions in the chat box area.